Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The Devil Complex. And I had problems with this episode because I felt that each storyline that we were looking at deserved its own episode to kind of let it breathe more fully. Because the two main focuses were Fitz and dealing with his issues and problems in the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, and Coulson, May, and the rest trying to deal with the General Hale threat. I just felt that an episode focusing on each story needed to be done instead of trying to half it out. Because time frame wise, it kind of does some weird things with Fitz, and I wish it had been done a little bit better execution-wise. I still like what was going on in this episode. I just wish that there were some other things kind of done to help them be a little bit better executed. So, this starts out and we see them still trying to figure out what's going on with the Gravitonium and figure out that they need to compress it into a bigger kind of apparatus to effectively close off the fear dimension. While Fitz is trying to struggle and figure this out, they get attacked by an astronaut fear projection, which, by the way, that thing coming into existence was really cool effects work. It was just really well done, and it was like, wow, okay. Attacks them pretty much, and Fitz is just trying to freak out, trying to figure out what's going on. He's racking his brain, he's really not sleeping, and it's kind of funny, he's trying to figure out all these things. He tries to get some information from Deke. He's like, listen, I don't know what's going on in the middle of it. And inside of his little device with all this stuff with the Gravitonium, but he says, try to chill, acting all kind of weird towards him once he's figured out that they're his grandparents and all that. Of course, trying to get into Daisy, and she's like, listen, we got everything. We're still looking for Anomaly Burst and all that, so we're alright. And then it splits up into going into the General Hale stuff. I'll kind of split my kind of reviews for it because the jumping around it helps with each one a little bit, but it's better to just go into it in its entirety. So we've learned that Fitz is not sleeping and having he is in meltdown mode pretty much. So we see him kind of working on the robots and all that. He's like, oh, that's kind of weird. And Deke tries to go and try and make sure that he's trying to be calm, trying to figure out, see if he needs any help. But then Fitz smacks him, and we see him get out, and it's framework Fitz. It's like, okay, that's interesting. And while this is going on, we also see some cool kind of bits with Mac, Yo-Yo, and Gemma, as Mac is helping Yo-Yo get used to her prosthetics that they've made. But that's kind of weird thinking about it. They said that they were prototypes made from them. I didn't know if they had made it because the two robots that are in here, or mechs, or whatever they're being called, have both of their arms. I thought they would have been needed for Yo-Yo. I don't know. They could have used them as a template and made them with different materials so that way they couldn't be hacked or whatnot. It was like, okay. But it's funny seeing Yo-Yo doing all this, Mac explaining, listen, you've only got 10% feedback on these things, and you're in a lot of pain. And she flips them off and like, I want to do this and all that. He's like, listen, sometimes you got to protect people even from themselves. You got to heal. And Mac's right. Mac is the best voice of reason in this show, just being like, listen, you got to be okay. But again, we do get him acting unreasonable in this episode as well, so it's a nice balancing act. So, of course, things start kind of going a little bit funny at the S.H.I.E.L.D. base. We see Fitz trying to figure out what's going on. He's trying to look into Dr. Hall's research notes on Gravitonium and all that kind of stuff. He can't find anything. He's like, yeah, I scanned him in and everything, and he's banging on the computer and all that. And he's like, calm down, calm down. And we see the two feeds have gone down, so of course Daisy goes off to check them, and then of course that's when Framework Fitz comes down and says, listen, I'm just here to do what you can't. And these were very well acted, especially seeing that you have to have the same actor for each one. Framework Fitz being how he is, and then just our Frazzle Fitz, just he's at his wit's end. He's got too much on himself, and he's just freaking out. And he's like, oh God, oh God. Like, what? I'm already doing my plan, pretty much. Like, holy crap. So of course this goes into, and we see one of the mechs attacking Yo-Yo and them, Mac getting shot and all that, and so it's my greatest fear. And I'm thinking, well, what if it's both their greatest fear? I'm like, because when I was seeing this, I was like, wow, what if it's feeding on two different people's fears? Could that work better? And I'm like, oh crap. So Gemma's trying to get him to think, what is this Fitz's objective and everything is in humans? Daisy. And of course he goes off, and we see that Daisy is like, nothing, what the hell is wrong with this thing? Nothing. And it's like, it was just kind of commonplace, like, I gotta go fix the tech thing that's having a thing. It's like, oh God. And of course she gets captured by one of the other mechs. It's like, holy crap. So while they're going off to figure that, we see Mac wounded standing up, like keeping guard and everything, and he's like, listen, you gotta sit down. You don't aggravate that wound. It's like, he's going, well, listen, guess what? I'm alive in the future. So out of anyone who doesn't need to worry, it's me. I'm like, that's a valid point to bring up. He goes, well, listen, we're trying to change the future, so anything can happen. Okay, anything can happen. I'm like, if Deke disappears, that's your pretty good-ass litmus test. Because when the dude from the future that you're trying to stop goes away, that's when you're okay. So we then get to Daisy being strapped down, and Framework Fitz pretty much explaining his plan and saying, listen, you need to do what you gotta do. You're thinking, oh God, he's gonna experiment to do anything. He's going, no, I gotta take out your inhibitor. Because I need your powers to compress the gravitonium to make the device work to seal off the fear dimension. And I did not think that they would go this route to restoring Daisy's powers, and she is adamantly against it. She truly thinks that she would mean the destruction of the world. However, I think that she should be thinking of the fact that a hole in space-time is a greater threat to a giant fear dimension that could do God knows what and have God knows what come out of it, rather than her quaking apart the earth. That's just me. But she's severely traumatized by this. We get, of course, our Fitz coming in, trying to figure out what's going on. He, of course, Framework Fitz explaining this to him as well. And he's like, you can't stop me. You know I have to do what needs to be done, what you can't do. And then we find out, of course, Gemma's figured out at this point that this is not a fear manifestation. Fitz has had a psychotic break. And he's got Framework Fitz in himself and regular Fitz. And he's the one doing the operation as well. Of course, we see that the other mech comes in with a gun, pretty much making sure that Fitz completes it, because the Framework Fitz persona knew that he needed leverage to make sure that he went through with this. And of course, Daisy is pleading with him not to do this, and he goes, listen, I've got to make this call. And I believe it's right. And he takes out the inhibitor, which is really disgusting, by the way, and really in there. And Daisy uses her powers, compresses the gravitonium, and makes the device, and it works. It seals it. Pretty good. And Fitz is freaked out by it. And Gemma's freaked out by it. Everybody is. We see that they have locked up. Like, Fitz willingly submitted himself to be imprisoned, and he's freaked out. He's like, how can he deal with the Framework version? And it's really weird happening just recently after they'd gotten married. I wanted this to be dealt with at some point, but it just seems like it just popped up at the most random of times. But I'm glad it kind of happened, but I thought we had already kind of dealt with this, especially with Fitz going in the future and using Darker Fitz, since we've seen him talking about it with Hunter and having to deal with his darker self that needed to be done. I'm wondering if he doesn't deserve Gemma still, and if Gemma and Daisy can forgive him, and he's like, I don't want to be forgiven or whatnot. I did what I think is right. I still think it's right. And like, I kind of thought that they were going to need Daisy's quake powers to compress the gravitonium anyway, so I'm like, okay, interesting way to get to it. So we'll have to see how that kind of fallout happens. We then see Gemma trying to deal with this. We see Deke coming and talking to her about Fitz, saying that he needs you to get through this and that you can help him. All telling her all about these details about like the prosciutto and mozzarella sandwiches and all that his mother had told him about, and she's like, Mother, and like, yeah, that he was the greatest man that she knew, and he was full of love and all that kind of stuff. And Gemma puts it together that Deke is their grandson. And I'm thinking, oh, they're gonna hug, and then she immediately pukes, and I'm like, that's the Gemma reaction I was looking for. I was like, yeah, it would have been cute if they hugged, but I'm like, yep, that makes more sense. But it was a really good moment of bonding between her and Deke, and her really understanding that's why you're acting so weird. So it will be interesting to see how Fitz handles the information and how Fitz will eventually get to the point where he can reconcile his darker half and his light half, because everybody has it. And he's going to have to come to terms with them because, as we see, he was able to do the procedure, and he thought he wasn't able to do the procedure. There's going to be some trade-offs. There's going to be some things that he'll do that'll be considered bad by others, some good by others. And, of course, Gemma brought this up that since we're trying to change time, there are going to be gray areas that we're going to have to make harder and harder choices. And be like, yeah, sometimes you're going to have to drastically change some stuff. So that was the kind of part that I wanted to have more expounded on. And then we get to the General Hale thing, which essentially wasn't even that. It was a big deal because of the stuff that happened towards the end of it. They essentially hacked into Hale's phone and pretty much had her drive up into the Zephyr, which was pretty good. They kind of gassed her, trying to get some information on her. She says that she wanted to bring them in to stop the end of the world. I'm like, okay. But, of course, Coulson's like, I don't really trust you. Your team pretty much named one of my agents. So why? One of my people got overzealous. Yeah. I love the ability for some people to just completely understate what happened. And like, no, you lost control of your agent, and they messed up. Own it. That builds trust. Move on. So she's like, listen, all right then, if you're not going to come with me, you better check on my driver. They go in, and people are like, well, we couldn't move the driver. He's really heavy. We find out that it's Creel. And he gets out and goes, you better let out Hale. Lifts up his shirt, and he's strapped with explosives. And I'm like, alright, fine. So a Quinjet comes in, and Ivanhoff's on it. I was pretty much toying with them. Going, yeah, I've pretty much got super strength and immortality now, so yeah, pretty good. Coulson, of course, called it terms. We're like, well, so much for your superior human things. Well, parts of me are human. So it's kind of interesting that he's with Hale and all that. He's putting it to the play that he's the one in charge, but that's not really it. So they pretty much get Hale and Creel there and be like, alright, how do we do this? Well, want to come with us? Pretty much a last kind of offer thing, and Creel's like, sure, why not? And May's like, listen, it's a trap. He's like, yeah, of course it's a trap. It's a great trap. And May's going, oh, listen, you're really getting kind of suicidal on these things. It's kind of being a little weird. And he's like, listen, we'll find out information. It's fine. Okay? So he goes off. Ivanov gives him a bag. He's like, let me scan your arm for weapons. He's like, whatever. And pretty much trying to get to Creel that he's not a truly bad guy. He's like, listen, I don't know why you're buying this. You know what I mean? And he's like, listen, she's the one in charge, not you. Ivanov, because I'm looking at your things and you couldn't recreate the LMDs. Otherwise, she'd be an LMD. I'm like, yeah. So we got Ivanov making these mech soldiers. So I was like, okay. That's his angle. And then, of course, that's kind of where it's left off because it's interspersed with the others. The other one, the Fitz storyline, took up more of the bulk of the episode. And we got some interesting tidbits towards the end because we didn't get much more with Phil Coulson, but we got Hale standing in a room with like some blue symbols and talking about how she is close to success. But we're like, well, you've been saying that before, and you failed before. She's like, I'm not going to this time. And bringing up this whole Confederacy, and know that you wanted to allow a seat at the table. Like, this Confederacy that Cassius was talking about? And to add even more fuel to that, he's like, well, listen, if you do fail, take the sodium. It's like, oh. And that leads me to believe that we've just kind of seen Cassius' father. And then at the end, he goes, Hail Hydra. It's like, okay, it's still Hydra. It'll be interesting to see what this cell is doing, but I'm like, okay, this is kind of a greatest hits kind of thing. I'm like, kind of wanted a little bit something different. Hopefully we do. But if that's the case, we didn't get a clear shot of the guy giving the odium to Hale. I didn't see that he looked blue, so I don't know if Cassius could actually be half Kree. But I don't know how that works. Or that might not be Cassius' father. That could be someone, an underling, an emissary for Cassius' father, but it is a link with the odium and everything. We don't know the exact goals of this Confederacy, but it'll be interesting to see what's going on, especially since we saw the previews of Hale trying to convince Coulson to align S.H.I.E.L.D. with Hydra to stop whatever's trying to end the world. So it did some interesting points, but it's furthering along the story arc, but it's getting to a point where this is kind of at least my least favorite season so far, in that I feel that we're just kind of rehashing at the moment and not actively doing a lot to further a lot of characters' arcs and do just kind of cool, interesting kind of stuff. I don't need new things every time, but I'm like, we just dealt with Ivanov last season. We dealt with the LMDs in the framework last season. We dealt with the Ghost Riders last season. I don't mind those being called back, but when it's severely integral to the plot, it's like, this is last season, part 2 kind of thing. I'd rather kind of have some new stuff. So hopefully that kind of brings it about towards the end. Now granted, I have and completely like the Deke parts. I would totally like, that I think would have deserved a little bit more time because that is really well done and I like that kind of aspect. I wish that the time traveling would have a better kind of clear thing, but we'll kind of have to see how it pans out towards the end of the season. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.